Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And it's Tuesday, it's October 24th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And another really slow day, about the same. There were about 4 trades, maybe 5 if you want to be real aggressive here. You might even could have found a couple more here if you want to be super aggressive. This was one to consider, but I just can't see going short into that. It's not a very good signal bar. Um, so, I mean, that bar is basically neutral, and this bar is basically neutral as well. Um, so you might have considered letting it break below this one and dropping a limit order in there, but like I said, you're going short right into that double bottom, and that's a higher low than that one, so it's risky. But it is a two-legged correction after a big move down. So, and the overnight lows were on down here. So there's a good chance it may push through there. So yeah, I don't recommend that trade. But again, the overnight lows down here. You got another low here. So there's an opportunity that if you want to be aggressive, if it had a really good signal bar, I'd probably say go for it. Because it is two-legged correction, and you had this leg down, and you may get another leg down like that, but at the very least, you may go test the overnight lows. But you can see we didn't get there, and by that time, this really does, when it bounces this quick, I like going long there, especially when it bounces off this low. You can at least ride it back to the EMA, and there's a good chance it'll probably come back to here. And if this is a range day, it may be headed back to here. So, quick, easy scalp on that one. And actually, I think I missed the very first trade here, but anyway, quick, easy scalp on that one. But on this one, we had the trend working up. And unfortunately, you don't want to be jumping in this. When I came in at 7, this is what it's doing, and then it starts going sideways here. You can almost count on it coming back to the EMA, but you need some kind of breakout or something, or a trap. And notice what happens. You get your first high there, then you try to go higher once, and you go higher twice. So that's a failed second entry long. But more than anything, that's like a little failed break out of that little trading range. And so now we're probably going to head back to the EMA. So I like that one. Even though that's not a perfect signal bar, what you might do is let it break lower and then drop a limit order back a tick or so in there, just to give you a little more room before you get to that EMA, just in case it bounces again off that EMA. But this is a perfect opening reversal. It looks like it's going to continue higher, and it reverses, and that happens a lot at the open. You get some kind of little trap, continuation. It looks like it's going to continue, and you get a little trap, and it trips people up and trying to be fancy and trying to be smarter than the market. And you're better off just to wait until something like this happens. And so now you got your break, and you got basically 2 legs up. There's a second entry. You're really just going sideways here. This is more like a failed breakout, but you got a high, you pull back first entry, pull back second entry. So that's really 2 legs in there as well. But I do like going short right there. I'm not as crazy about entering. If you're going to enter with a stop, I'd probably make that green. But if you let it break lower and drop a limit order, and you could have gotten filled at least a tick back in that, maybe 2 ticks back in that, and then it just drops on down. That turned out to be a nice trade. And of course, you get your break here. We already talked about this one. You may go short there. I'm willing to make that one green. I'm hesitant, but I'll go ahead and make it green, because you're probably going to at least test that low. So if you could get in there with enough room to get out before here, maybe. This is one you really want to be worried about, but you still have to be concerned about that one. And when it drops lower, by that time it looks like we're really going sideways, and it drops lower, and you get this little reversal bar. It didn't quite close on its high, but this is where you might catch a major low or something, and because your trend line's coming down, you got your break and move to a new low. It's probably coming, like I said, at least back to the EMA, maybe back to here, and of course that's where it ends up heading to. It ends up going much higher, but and you would have caught a runner here, so you could have ridden this all the way up. Although I don't know if I wouldn't have exited when it kept going sideways here. any runners, I probably would have exited. So, or at least tighten my stop. But somebody asked me, let me mention that right now before. Um, I know in the manual it does kind of tell you. Let's say you entered here to, and then it turns, you make another low here. You know, I used to recommend moving your stop up and tightening it up. But too often now, you'll get stopped out of a good trade only to watch it go on. So leave your stop in the original place below the signal bar. Um, Unless you're just really uncomfortable with the trade and you're afraid you may get stopped out. But what'll happen is if you don't get out, you'll probably get stopped out. And every time you do get out, it'll go on and you'll never get it right trying to guess. So just put your stop where it goes, which is one tick above or below the signal bar, and leave it there. And I just think especially while you're learning, when you get a little more experienced, you might experiment with that some more, but it's been my experience that I can never get it right. The ones that look like they're going to go on, back up and stop you out. The ones that look like they're going to back up and stop you out end up going on. So you just can't, you really can't read it well enough. There's no way to determine what it's going to do. So if you like the trade enough to enter it and it still hasn't broken below the signal bar, then you probably ought to just stay with it. At least it's definitely early on until while you're learning till you get a better handle on it. So, but anyway, we broke higher here, and you got a little short-term trend, and you can see prices working up it. And then you get a little close outside here. But notice what happens. You push through the EMA, you come back once, and then you come back a second time. So there's a failed second entry short right here. And this is a little bit of a breakout pullback, but I wouldn't want to go long right into those highs on just a breakout pullback type entry. I'd like to see it fail again. And when it does, notice it went lower here and then it turns and goes right out the other side. That's a perfect place to go long. I don't like to talk about my trades, but I love that setup. And that was the trade of the day, really, other than this one, or unless you get in here. So this was the safest trade of the day. Of course, if you took the second entry long, prices broke higher and failed just like you would expect. But now that they've already pushed through, the second time they'll probably run on through. And that's what they do. They fool people, and then it ends up going on. So I like that one, and that turns out to be the trade of the day other than this one, or if you entered here. I mean, there weren't many trades, so, but this turned out to be a nice, easy trade, easy to ride back to the highs anyway. And if you'd hung on, it would have went higher, but I wouldn't have hung on to this. I would have exited once I usually like to exit one tick ahead of the previous highs, and you can see where my line's there. So, that's probably where I'd exit my run. I may hang on to my runner and tighten my stop really tight, but if you did, if you moved it up below each stop, you would have got stopped out here, so you still wouldn't have got to ride that up. But then notice what happens. We just kind of start going sideways again. And you did want to draw this trend line, and notice how it bounces off that trend line on a second entry. And there's a little bit of room in there, but there's not enough really. So even though that confirms the trend line, the range has really been the play, so the range is probably more dominant. That's generally the way it works. Today, I don't know that you could say that. We continued going higher, even though notice what happens. As soon as we broke out of the range, it fails and we come back. So really the range is generally going to be the dominant play when you've turned off those highs that many times. So I'm not crazy about this one. This is almost a repeat of this one, though, when it comes back again and gives you another opportunity. And you figure it's probably going to break out now. You don't know that, though, so I'm only going to make both of those green. This one you don't really have enough. I like this one a lot, but you don't have enough room. And then this one is kind of a repeat of over here. It didn't break lower and turn and go out the upper side above the other bar, but it's still a very similar pattern going sideways with that one more additional attempt to go lower, and it makes a higher low too, and then off it goes. But when it breaks out here, I like shorting that. Look how far we are away from the EMA. It's very similar to this one down here. I like riding that back. And sometimes you'll get lucky and it'll go all the way the other side. And this is one of those days where you can ride it all the way the other side. And that's the last trade because you don't really get another opportunity till after 2 o'clock. Even this one, the bar is so big, and this bar is too bullish, but this bar is so big, you might let it break lower here and drop a limit order, but you would have only got filled maybe a tick back in that. So you still don't really want to be going low right into those lows across there. Of course, I'd move this up, but you still had to be, oops, you still had to be leery of those lows right across there. And you can see it did bounce before it went lower. So, but anyway, um, this is after 2 o'clock, so it doesn't matter. But and it does it. But you could have kept your runner going and you're ridden this all the way to the low. And again, I probably would have exited one tick above that bar, um, and that would have got you out almost perfect. Anytime you can get out with it within a point or so of a point to a couple of points from the high or the low, you've done pretty good. And so, sure, you'd like to get out right at the very low or at the very, to be reasonably to expect to get out, it's got to be at least a tick away from the high or the low. And it's very rare that you're going to be able to do that without taking a lot of risk and ended up giving a lot of money back. So if you can get out, like if you can get in here, and then you can get out one tick in front of that, so you would have gotten out maybe 2 points from the high. That's a good move. And if you're coming down here and you would have gotten out one tick below the low, you would have gotten out within 1, 2, 3 ticks of the low. And that's as best. You can't do any better than that. You really can't. So that's generally the way I recommend doing it. But yeah, it's just another typical day. Notice where we closed yesterday around 26.53. Well, let's just see where it closed yesterday. It closed yesterday at 25.63. And so then we just chopped sideways today and we closed slightly up, which we closed at 25.67. So we closed up 4 points. So that's pretty typical of what we've been doing lately. We either run up or down during the overnight when we chop sideways, and then we end up closing down slightly or closing up slightly. If we're trending up, we end up closing up slightly, and if we're trending down, we go sideways. We trend down for a little bit, go sideways, and then close down slightly. And that's been the standard MO for a couple of weeks now at minimum. I can't remember how long, but that's what we've been seeing every day. And what it'll do is it'll eventually break out, which we kind of did yesterday, and we got a little bit of a trend today. I mean, we trended from 9 o'clock till 1 o'clock, so 1:20. So we still had a trend. It's just not a very big or strong one, but there's still a trend in there. But overall, this is a range day, and you can see this was your major high. This turned out to be your major low, and we broke higher and we broke lower, and they're pretty even. If you measure them, and that tells you probably got your highs and lows right. Market, market geometry is real. And so there's your distance from the high, and you can see looks like it's maybe one tick. Well, no, it's not. I just don't have it quite up there. I mean, it's a perfect measured move. I mean, we broke out an equal distance at the bottom, so you probably got it right. But you can look at it and see most of your bounces are right here, and most of your closes or bounces are right here. And so pretty standard. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.